Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain a British independent slasher horror film from 2026, titled Pinocchio Unstrung. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie begins with a story of a boy named James, who is sent to live with his grandfather, Geppetto, after his parents die in a car accident. James soon becomes friends with a boy named Zach, who later becomes his best friend. However, Zach eventually dies from terminal cancer. James is devastated by Zach's death, so Geppetto promises to build him a friend who will never abandon him or be taken away by death. In the present day, James is returning home from school with one of his older friends, Mia. While in his room, James remembers the happy memories he shared with Zach before his grandfather interrupts him. Geppetto takes James outside so they can spend some time together, and while they talk, James wishes that Zach were still alive. Geppetto tells him that Zach is still with him because even when our loved ones are gone, they remain with us through the love and memories we shared with them. Later that night, James wakes up after hearing a strange sound in his room. He looks around but finds nothing. However, he then notices someone standing in front of his door, and when James goes to investigate, he is shocked to see a strange wooden creature, which quickly runs away. James follows the creature and ends up entering the forbidden basement where Geppetto works. There, he notices a strange opening in the wall that leads somewhere. Geppetto then introduces James to Pinocchio, the same wooden creature he saw earlier. Pinocchio is a sentient wooden puppet, and then James is terrified and tries to run away, but Geppetto follows him and tries to calm him down. He reminds James that Pinocchio is a being, not a thing. He explains that he created Pinocchio to be James's new friend and tells him that, with time, everything will make sense. After overcoming his fear, James approaches Pinocchio and introduces himself. This marks the beginning of a new friendship, and Geppetto tells James not to tell anyone about Pinocchio. Over time, James and Pinocchio develop a brother-like friendship. Pinocchio learns about human anatomy and begins wishing to become a real boy.
What's this?
That night, while James is asleep, Pinocchio watches a documentary about how animals protect themselves from predators. Afterwards, he starts touching James's face, but stops when Geppetto appears and takes him away. Pinocchio insists that he wants to stay with James, but Geppetto tells him that James has school the next day, and that the world is not ready for Pinocchio yet. The next morning, James leaves for school with his asthmatic friend, Dudley, while Pinocchio watches them from the basement window. However, Pinocchio accidentally falls out of the window. He then notices something in the distance and moves closer to investigate. There, he finds a disfigured wooden creature who introduces herself as his wood mother. She mocks Pinocchio, telling him that he is a failed experiment, which is why Geppetto abandoned him in the basement. Pinocchio insists that he is a real boy, just like James. However, his nose suddenly grows a little longer, proving that he is lying. His wood mother then tells him that he is only a puppet and that he will need human organs to become real. Afterwards, Pinocchio breaks through the basement window and goes outside to enjoy nature. When James returns from school, he finds Pinocchio in his room holding a picture of James's friends. Pinocchio asks James if they are friends, and to reassure him, James teaches Pinocchio a secret handshake, making their friendship official. James then tells Pinocchio that he will take him to school the next day, but he must pretend to be an ordinary puppet, which Pinocchio agrees. The next morning, James goes to the basement and unties Pinocchio. He replaces him with another damaged doll to trick Geppetto into thinking that Pinocchio is still in the basement. On their way to school, one of James's bullies, Terry, spots James and Pinocchio, and when they arrive at school, a little girl notices that the doll is moving and becomes horrified. After the teaching period, the students get ready for sports, and James hides Pinocchio in the changing room and tells him not to move. However, after James and his friends leave, Pinocchio sneaks into the staff gym, where two teachers are working out. Unfortunately, one of the teachers spots Pinocchio, and what happens next causes a chain reaction that ends with James's teacher being killed by a treadmill. Later, while James is in another classroom with Pinocchio, he is approached by Terry, his bully, along with his friend Logan and their girlfriends. Terry intimidates James and scatters his belongings while insulting him, but they eventually leave when Mia arrives. Unable to take the bullying anymore, James wishes that they were all dead, which the doll overhears. Mia comforts him, and since she has already seen Pinocchio, James invites Dudley over so he can see him too. Following James's instructions, Pinocchio begins to move, leaving both Mia and Dudley shocked, and James then tries to explain how Pinocchio is able to move. Later, James visits the dentist to have a bad tooth removed, and the entire procedure traumatizes Pinocchio. While they are returning home in a taxi, the driver becomes distracted after noticing Pinocchio, and suddenly, a drunk driver crashes into their taxi. Back at home, Geppetto receives a call from St. Mary Hospital informing him that James has been involved in a car accident. Fortunately, James only suffers minor injuries and is hospitalized under the care of Dr. Christopher Robin. After the doctor leaves the room, Pinocchio speaks to the unconscious James, telling him not to die and reminding him that best friends always protect one another. The doll then leaves the room, doing his best not to be seen, and follows Dr. Christopher to the room where the taxi driver is being treated. Unlike James, the taxi driver is badly injured, and Pinocchio sneaks into the driver's hospital room and confronts him. He calls the driver evil and blames him for James's condition. Pinocchio believes that people who try to hurt James should be eliminated. Suddenly, Pinocchio begins ripping off his own skin, saying that he is doing it for James. He then uses a scalpel to cut open the driver's chest and removes his organs, placing them inside his wooden chest, and after the driver dies, Pinocchio leaves the room. Meanwhile, Geppetto is at the hospital talking to James, who has just woken up, and James explains how the accident happened. When James notices Pinocchio, he does not want Geppetto to see him, so he distracts his grandfather and allows Pinocchio to hide inside his bag. James is then discharged from the hospital, and shortly afterward, the mutilated body of the taxi driver is discovered. Back at home, James's friends, Dudley and Mia, visit him after hearing about the accident. While Geppetto goes out to order pizza, Dudley touches Pinocchio and notices something leaking from his body. Pinocchio explains that it is his organ, leaving Dudley and Mia confused. However, there is no time to think about it because James wants Pinocchio back in the basement before Geppetto discovers that he took him. James and Dudley take Pinocchio to the basement and tie him up. Meanwhile, Mia discovers notes written by Geppetto about his failed experiments, along with some disturbing drawings. She also notices something about a red room and finds several tapes. Mia takes the tapes and leaves the basement just in time, before Geppetto arrives. Back in the basement, Pinocchio frees himself from his restraints and tells his wood mother about the killings he committed to protect James. She congratulates him before introducing him to the talking cricket, and we also notice that James has forgotten his phone in the basement. The cricket encourages Pinocchio to kill anyone who has put James in danger. He also reminds Pinocchio that if he wants to become real, he knows what he needs to bring. Meanwhile, Geppetto leaves the house to get pizza, and Pinocchio secretly climbs into his car, revealing that he is heading to the school clinic. With Geppetto gone, James, Mia, and Dudley watch the tapes. They discover that Geppetto had created several wooden puppets before Pinocchio. However, he destroyed them because he considered them imperfect to be James' friends. The discovery shocks everyone, especially James, who never knew about his grandfather's dark side. Meanwhile, at the school clinic, the dentist is busy working when she hears strange noises. She looks around but finds no one. Suddenly, Pinocchio attacks her, and with the cricket's help, they manage to knock her unconscious. When the dentist regains consciousness, she finds herself restrained to a chair with her mouth wide open. Pinocchio accuses her of hurting James before grabbing a needle and pushing it into her eye, causing it to bleed. He then grabs a piece of metal and begins breaking all her teeth. Pinocchio takes the teeth and fixes them into his own mouth, and sadly, the dentist takes her last breath and dies. Back at the basement, James, Mia, and Dudley discover that Pinocchio is gone. James also realizes that his phone is missing. He asks Dudley to call it, and to their shock, Pinocchio answers. Pinocchio flashes his bloody teeth at them and tells James that he is killing everyone who hurts him. James begs him not to kill anyone else, but the call suddenly disconnects, and the friends then rush out to find the doll. Meanwhile, Geppetto returns home with the pizza, only to notices that the basement door is open and discovers that Pinocchio is gone. The doll's next targets are Trey and Logan, who are having a pool night with their girlfriends. While Logan is busy listening to music at high volume on his phone, his girlfriend Georgia is swimming in the pool. Suddenly, Pinocchio attacks her with an axe, breaking her jaw and injuring her arm. He prevents Georgia from escaping the water by dragging her back in, while the cricket finishes her off by fatally electrocuting her. Next, Pinocchio goes after Logan, and while Logan is smoking, Pinocchio suddenly attacks him, ripping out his tongue and eyes. Pinocchio then enters the house and notices Trey's girlfriend, Amanda, talking to a shower. After hearing strange noises, Amanda quickly gets dressed, but the cricket attacks her, causing her to pierce her leg on Pinocchio's nose. Injured, Amanda tries to run away, but Pinocchio attacks her and eventually kills her by tearing off her scalp. Trey notices what is happening and tries to escape, but Pinocchio pins him down with his nose. He then murders Trey by impaling his skull with his growing nose. Meanwhile, while searching for Pinocchio, James realizes that Trey and his friends are the doll's next targets, but unfortunately, it is already too late. As they drive to Trey's house, Dudley receives a call from Geppetto and learns that Pinocchio is at Trey's house. At the house, the cricket congratulates Pinocchio for transforming into a real person. We notice that Pinocchio has covered his body with bloody skin and is wearing Amanda's scalp, and to celebrate his achievement, Pinocchio begins playing the piano. Moments later, Geppetto arrives at the house and is horrified to find the teenagers Pinocchio has killed. Meanwhile, while on their way to the house, James, Mia, and Dudley notice Geppetto taking Pinocchio home. Back at the house, Geppetto angrily throws Pinocchio into the basement and reprimands him for the murders. Pinocchio then realizes that his wood mother and the cricket tricked him into doing bad things, so he kills them both with a sledgehammer. Later, Geppetto takes Pinocchio to the strange room where he was created. He explains how he transferred souls into the puppets he created, and a flashback shows how Geppetto performed the process. Next, Geppetto shows Pinocchio a cage where he locked away one of his experiments after it failed. Meanwhile, James, Mia, and Dudley arrive at the house and notice that Geppetto is preparing to kill Pinocchio. When Pinocchio asks how he came to life, Geppetto reveals that he used Zack's corpse to build him and transferred Zack's soul into the puppet. Filled up, Dudley goes to call the police, while James and Mia, who is persuaded, help distract Geppetto. James and Mia go to the basement to rescue Pinocchio, but suddenly, Geppetto appears behind Dudley and shoots him dead. Terrified, Pinocchio leads James and Mia to the secret room, but it does not take long for Geppetto to corner them. Mia hides while James confronts his grandfather and calls him a murderer. However, the old man claims that he can bring Dudley back to life, same with Mia. When Geppetto tries to enter the room, James attempts to stop him, but Geppetto knocks him unconscious. While searching for Mia to kill her, Geppetto reveals that he was an apprentice of the late Dr. Arthur Gallup and continued his experiments to resurrect dead children. Mia suddenly sneaks up behind Geppetto and attacks him, but the old man easily overpowers her and begins hitting her. Just as he prepares to kill her, James wakes up and stabs Geppetto, and Pinocchio then holds him at gunpoint. The old man taunts Pinocchio, reminding him that he is his creation and cannot kill his master. However, Pinocchio tells Geppetto that he will no longer let his master control him. Pinocchio shoots at Geppetto but misses, hitting a panel instead. The panel releases an aggressive wooden creature, which attacks and kills Geppetto as the entire house begins to burn. James, Mia, and Pinocchio manage to escape, and they promise to lie about what happened and urge Pinocchio never to go on another killing spree. As Pinocchio stares at the burning building, he reveals that he did not enjoy killing people, but suddenly, his nose begins to grow again. In a post-credits scene, the cricket is revealed to have survived. He recovers Geppetto's corpse and prepares to resurrect him. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Pinocchio Unstrung from 2026. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.